The Houston Texans just walked into Pittsburgh and walked out with a scoreboard that barely looks real, 30-6, in a playoff game against Aaron Rodgers on his own field. This was not some lucky bounce or late miracle. This was a night where C.J. Stroud turned the ball over 3 separate times, and it still felt like Houston had control of the whole thing once they settled in. Every time the camera found the Steelers sideline, you could almost feel that building energy flipping, because the team that was supposed to get pushed around in the cold was the one doing the pushing. On offense, it felt like a wild swing between stress and relief. One moment, C.J. Stroud is spinning in the pocket, losing the ball, firing a pass straight into danger, and you can feel every Texan fan holding their breath. The next moment, Christian Kirk is gliding through soft spots in the coverage, taking the top off the defense for more than 140 yards, and rookie back Woody Marks is hammering away for over 100 yards on the ground like he has been doing this his whole career. Nick Caley leans into that run game, trusts his line up front, calls that fake end around boot, where Christian Kirk leaks into the flat and dives into the end zone, and suddenly the crowd is quiet and the Steelers defense looks like the unit on its heels, not the Texans. What makes this even heavier is the bigger picture sitting behind it. This is not a one-night fluke. This is another playoff win stacked on top of the last ones. Another game where DeMeco Ryans backs his defense, trusts C.J. Stroud to ride out the mistakes, and lets players like Christian Kirk and Woody Marks carry the pressure instead of folding under it. A couple of years ago, people talked about Houston like a team you could ignore in January, a soft spot on the bracket. Now they just walked into Pittsburgh, buried Aaron Rodgers in front of his own fans, and walked out, looking like a real problem for New England and the rest of the conference. To really understand how they turned into this kind of playoff threat, you have to rewind a bit and look at where this roster came from and how this whole identity started to take shape. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Texans and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 350 likes on this video. For a long time, people talked about the Houston Texans like a team you only mentioned when you needed an easy punchline. But that version of this franchise does not match what we are watching now. The shift started when the building finally committed to a real reset, cleared out the noise, and decided the next era would be built around toughness, smart drafting, and an identity that would actually hold up in January. Instead of chasing quick fixes, they went all in on players who could change the way this team feels on both sides of the ball. And that decision is the reason nights like the one in Pittsburgh even exist. It begins with C.J. Stroud taking the job and refusing to play scared, even when his style means you are going to live with some ugly mistakes along the way. Then you stack that with front 7 cornerstones like Will Anderson Jr., and you surround them with playmakers who fit the attitude of this new Texans core. Christian Kirk arrives and brings a steady presence as a true chain mover and deep threat. Nico Collins takes the leap into a real outside weapon, and rookie back Woody Marks steps right into the fire and runs like he has something personal to prove on every carry. Behind them sits a secondary that does not blink, with Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, and Jalen Pitre, turning coverage into a strength instead of a weakness that offenses can pick on. Put all of that inside the mindset that DeMeco Ryans has been drilling since he walked through the door, and you get exactly what we are seeing now, a team that expects to walk into hostile stadiums and push people around instead of surviving on hope. This is why they do not collapse when C.J. Stroud has one of his rougher nights, why Woody Marks can carry a drive, and why someone like Christian Kirk can flip a game by himself when the moment calls for it. The roster has been built to handle chaos, and that is why the next part of this story matters so much. Because once you look at how this offense actually rode the roller coaster in Pittsburgh, you start to see just how dangerous this version of the Texans really is. There were long stretches in Pittsburgh where it felt like the only thing that could slow the Texans was C.J. Stroud himself. One drive, he is calm, sliding in the pocket, firing lasers into tight windows, and looking like a veteran built for January. Then all at once the ball hits the ground, or sails straight into a defender, and the air gets sucked out of the night. The box score says C.J. Stroud finished around 21 of 32 for 250 yards with a touchdown. But that line does not show the swings in emotion. Every time he put the ball in danger, you could feel the anxiety spike. Then he would step up on a later third down and rip a throw that reminds everyone why this franchise put everything on his shoulders in the first place. What kept those swings from turning into a collapse was everything happening around him. Woody Marks played like the moment was built for him. The rookie back pounding out over 100 rushing yards on 19 carries, falling forward, refusing first contact, and taking control of the tempo when the passing game sputtered. Christian Kirk became the steady heartbeat in the air, stacking 8 catches for 140-plus yards, winning on deep shots, on crossers, on those perfectly timed routes that sit down right between zones. When Nico Collins left with a head issue and could not finish, the offense did not fold. It just leaned harder on Woody Marks, trusted Christian Kirk, and let the interior line keep moving bodies, so that second and long never became the story of the night. All of that is how an offense can look messy on paper and still control the shape of a playoff game. Nick Caley understood that his quarterback did not have his cleanest night, so he kept feeding Woody Marks, kept calling designs that gave C.J. Stroud simple answers, and kept the chains moving enough that the Texans could play from in front instead of chasing. The Texans did not need perfection from their signal caller. They needed timely throws, tough runs, and an offense willing to take a punch without losing its rhythm. That is exactly what they got, and it set the stage for the real turning point in this matchup, because once you look at how the front seven and that violent pass rush took over, you start to see why the Steelers never truly had a way back into this game. From the very first series, you could tell the Houston front was not interested in feeling out the game. They were there to take it. Will Anderson Jr. came off the edge, like someone had hit fast forward on the tape, collapsing one side of the pocket, while Sheldon Rankins blew up the middle and forced Aaron Rodgers into those panicked little sidesteps that never lead anywhere good. Snap after snap, the line of scrimmage crept closer to the Steelers' backfield, and by the time the night was done, Pittsburgh had almost no healthy run game left, and a veteran quarterback who spent more time resetting his feet than reading downfield. It was not reckless chaos, it was controlled pressure, rushing for, trusting technique, and winning the fight right at the point of attack. The hits started to stack, and that is where you saw the full weight of this group. Danielle Hunter knifed in and got just enough of a throwing lane to smack away what should have been a huge play to DK Metcalf, turning a likely touchdown into another frustrated jog back to the huddle. Sheldon Rankins did what big men almost never get to do, scooping up a loose ball and rumbling the other way for 6, the kind of moment that takes the life out of a stadium in one long heartbeat. Around them, guys like Treman Smith and Tommy Togiai rotated through and kept fresh legs in the trenches so that every second and third down felt like the same thing for Pittsburgh. Heavy bodies in the gaps, no clean cutback lanes, and a wall of red helmets closing in on Aaron Rodgers as soon as he hit the top of his drop. What made it even more impressive is that Houston did all of this without living on exotic blitzes or gambling coverages. They trusted their front to earn those long yardage downs and then let the rest of the defense squeeze the life out of the root concepts behind it. Every time a run got stuffed for almost nothing or a screen got blown up in the backfield, it set up another passing down where the rush could pin its ears back and go hunting again. Once you understand how badly the front seven tilted the field, the next part of the story becomes even clearer, because when you marry that kind of pressure with a secondary full of corners and safeties who refuse to give up separation, you get exactly what happened to the Steelers' passing game on this night. The Houston Texans did not just win at the line, they turned the sky itself into a locked door, and the Steelers kept running routes straight into it. Every time Aaron Rodgers looked up, he saw jerseys plastered to his receivers and windows that closed before he could even finish his drop. On throws that went toward Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter, Pittsburgh ended up with something close to -2 yards. which almost sounds fake in a playoff game until you watch how tight those snaps were. A home crowd that came in expecting fireworks through the air spent most of the night watching checkdowns, throwaways, and frustrated jogs back to the huddle. What made it even tougher for Pittsburgh is that there was nowhere safe to go once the first read died. When DK Metcalf got that early deep shot wiped out, the Texans' corners adjusted and never let him breathe again, holding him to a couple of modest grabs and nothing that tilted the field. Underneath, Jalen Pitre floated around the short zones like a traffic cop, blowing up quick throws before they could turn into yards after the catch, while Kalen Bullock erased angles from the backside and made sure nothing snuck over the top. Even when Jalen Warren or Kenneth Gainwell leaked out into the flat, the rally and tackle from this group made those completions feel like lost downs rather than relief valves. On the one deep ball where fans wanted a flag, both players were hand fighting. Both had a shot at the ball, and the officials let them decide it, which is exactly how this secondary prefers to win. All of that coverage discipline did more than just shrink the passing chart. It fed straight into the chaos that came next. Every snapped route on third and long, every pass that died short of the sticks, set the table for the moments that really broke this game open. A tip, throw here, a scoop and score there. A bizarre live ball that the Texans turned into a back-breaking touchdown. These were not random plays. They were the result of an offense that could not find daylight against the secondary and kept getting pushed into desperate situations. Once you see how suffocating the back end was, it becomes a lot easier to understand why a few key snaps completely flipped the night. And that is where the real turning points of this matchup start to show themselves. The crazy part about the Houston Texans in this game is that the box score screams blowout, but the whole night actually swung on a few snaps that most people forget the moment the replay ends. Early on, it looked shaky. The crowd roaring, CJ Stroud putting the ball in harm's way, and the Steelers smelling a chance to steal momentum before Houston even found its rhythm. One bad bounce in those moments, and this could have turned into a long night. Instead, the Texans kept turning near disasters into small scars, and those tiny escapes are exactly what opened the door for that final 30-6 feel. Every time it looked like Pittsburgh had a chance to flip the script, Houston slammed the door a little harder. You can see it in the sequence where a tense game started to tilt. After one of those rough stretches from CJ Stroud, the Texans' defense stepped into a short field and held firm, forcing a kick instead of watching the stadium explode over a touchdown. Later, with the margin still uncomfortable, CJ Stroud drops back on a third and very long, and finally hits a big-time throw down the field, just enough to set up a long field goal that stretched the lead from a single point to a much safer cushion where a Pittsburgh kick could not jump them anymore. Then came the moment that broke the spirit in the building, a strange live ball that Houston never stopped playing, scooped up and taken all the way back while Steelers players hesitated. 1 second, it was still a game. The next second, the score had blown open, and you could feel the air drain out of that stadium in one long, quiet sigh. Those are the kinds of plays that tell you what this team really is when the pressure hits. They did not play perfect football. They just refused to let their worst mistakes become fatal ones. The defense responded to sudden change like it was just another chance to hunt. The special teams stepped up when it was time to cash in a long kick, and CJ Stroud found just enough control in the middle of the chaos to keep the scoreboard moving in the right direction. At the same time, every one of those swings put a brighter light on the quarterback and the man calling plays for him. Because as good as this defense is, Houston knows the ceiling of this run still comes down to how CJ Stroud and Nick Caley handle nights exactly like this. This game showed exactly where CJ Stroud and Nick Caley really are right now. CJ Stroud was volatile, mixing about 250 yards, a touchdown, and big third down throws with turnovers that could have flipped the game, but he kept attacking and trusting Christian Kirk instead of hiding. Nick Caley read that early, leaned on Woody Marks, trusted the line, and built a patient, balanced plan that kept Houston ahead, especially with how often they converted on third down. Together, they proved the Texans do not need perfection. They just need C.J. Stroud and Caley to control the chaos, ride the run game with rookie Woody Marks, and let the elite defense set the ceiling, while teams like Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers head into hard questions and Houston rolls on toward Foxborough. This result felt like a crossroads for both teams. The Steelers just watched Aaron Rodgers leave a home playoff game without a touchdown, DK Metcalf vanish after one early flash, and a proud franchise fall to 7 straight playoff losses, which will force real questions about their weapons, direction, and how long Aaron Rodgers wants to keep doing this. For Houston, it was the opposite. Proof that their identity works when it matters most. With C.J. Stroud winning despite flaws, Woody Marks running like a vet, Christian Kirk playing like a true number one, and a defense led by Will Anderson Jr., Sheldon Rankins, Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, Callan Bullock, and Jalen Pitre, holding a historic franchise to 6 points and outscoring its offense. Now they head to Foxborough to face Drake May, a quarterback this defense already rattled as a rookie. And the only real question is whether C.J. Stroud, Nick Caley, and this Texans defense can repeat that level and show just how far they can push the AFC.